Exactly. So you weren't affirming anything healthy for him. You just like that he was ideologically aligned with you.
I'm not allowed to have a position of affirmation in this debate that someone pursuing abstinence.
You should affirm people because they've done the appropriate level of exploration to figure out this is what's right for them, not because you're just pushing them.
The question isn't whether someone. The question is not whether
they align with me ideologically.
You can't shame me for having the view that there
I don't give people
reality.
credit for exploration. I give them credit for having the right answers.
Okay, gotcha. Having the right answers doesn't matter. What matters is how you get there. It's more important.
Well, you're assuming that he doesn't get there through some thoughtful process, and I think that's unfair of you.
When your answer is because I have self-respect, that's the answer everybody gives to justify literally any stupid behavior.
I think that's diminishing this young man.
And people talk about respect to justify good behavior, that they're disrespected or they have respect for themselves, and they're not going to do things like allow themselves to be objectified. Respect can be a very good reason for something. You can't just throw it down the drain.
That's great. And the same argumentation has been used to shame women out of even exploring their own vaginas until they're 30 years old. Like, you can use shitty arguments to justify anything. That's what I'm saying. It's the argument that matters,
so is
not
the
like the
word
correct
respect
outcome.
What triggered you, or what?
It's the idea that when people just give a position, they say, I do this, and my friends think that, why don't they have respect? Then it doesn't sound like something they've truly explored. It sounds like a position they've been like either bullied or brainwashed into, and not something they've spent a good time.
That comment.
That was the assumption. I could be wrong. But
I don't think. I think that it's unfair to assume that simply because someone is.
That's great, but you've already affirmed that if they would have given the exact opposite answer with the same argument, you would have disagreed with them. So you don't even care about their argument. You just care about the position.
I think you're making the point that I was trying to make, which is that in our society today, we applaud or accept sexual promiscuity.
That is not true. But
I think largely speaking, especially like younger people, it's actually feels shameful for some of them. If they are a virgin, they think, oh, what's wrong with me? And I think that we've forgotten, we've lost a sense of respect and appreciation for people who are trying to live a virtuous life.
What point in U.S. history is everybody proud to be virgins?
I think today people.
No. When are you saying like in the 80s, people were proud? It's like, I'm 30 and I'm a virgin. I'm 25 and I'm a virgin.
No, it's not so much about even virgin as it is about virtue. Is it about having self-restraint and choosing to delay sexual activity?
I'm not just going out having casual sex.
Okay. And so I think that was the point of this young man that he was making, and I think that that's a good thing.
Yeah, okay.
All right, we have Kyle Whittington. Question for Destiny and Trent. At what point is consent irrelevant? What would be some examples of actions that would be wrong regardless of consent, and why?
Well, actually, I have an example of this. Destiny said something that reminded me. He also said exploitation, and you talked about selling kidneys. That actually does have a little bit of a relation here. It's not just, we've been talking a lot about behavior, like doing this, doing that. But the big problem with prostitution and pornography is the money. Okay, it's money that leads to things like exploitation. So, for example, I would say it's good for somebody to donate plasma, donate bone marrow, donate kidneys. That helps other people, and it's good that they do that. But if you pay people for those things, for example, the United States is one of the few countries on Earth that pays people for blood plasma. Most other countries on Earth, you can't be paid for blood plasma. And we do it here. And most blood plasma donation centers, they're on the border, they're in the poor parts of town. And when you pay people, so we have to ask, even though they're consenting to giving up parts of their body, is that exploitation that they're basically doing it because they're trying to get money? If we have ethical problems about using money to get people to give up their body, their blood, their bone marrow, their kidneys, and that we're exploiting them because of the money that's involved, the same questions will be raised about people who will get money by giving their body on something like OnlyFans, and it's out there as a virtual image, and it's out there permanently. So the same ethical issues get raised about exploitation.
So who's exploiting me?
Who's exploiting you?
Yeah, you just said that if you do sex...
The CEOs that make millions of dollars from OnlyFans and don't have to take their clothes off.
You could say that about any industry in America. That you could say capitalism.
No, because most industries you don't take your clothes off.
It's possible to exploit
so it's the taking
oneself.
The clothes off. It's the taking the clothes off that you have issue. It's the moral issue
it's
you
not,
have
No,
with
it's not the
taking your
moral
clothes
issue. It's
off.
the commodification.
And it's possible to exploit oneself. That's why you can't sell your own kidney. Or you can't sell your own
one
part.
$299.
Thank you.
For Trent, Jasmine and Leela, do you think it is a big brain move for a husband to let other men cream pie his wife or for him to suck men's penises? Or is it more likely to cause a failed relationship?
We're not answering that.
Good question. I think that one of the things you're talking about when you talk about the kidney thing is we've talked about consent a lot, but I think the topic that we're really getting towards is something called informed consent. So somebody's ability to give consent to something, for instance, a 14-year-old can theoretically consent to sexual activity with an adult, but they can't have an informed consent because they're only 14. We would say, can they decide to have sex? Sure, but do they understand all the ramifications? No. And that's where the issue between whether it's moral or immoral comes in. I think when we look at things like kidney donations, I think that when we look at the informed consent, we're looking at, is there a group of people that they have enough knowledge to make a decision? And if they do, and there are no other mitigating factors, the question then becomes like, why would you prevent them from doing so? So let's say, for instance, we say, okay, we do blood plasma donations, but that we pay $50 a service for, or, like medical studies we pay people for participation in. If you do that, is it an unethical transaction? Well, let's say you say, yes, it is, and then we get rid of it. Well, what are the social goods that you've achieved there? We have less blood plasma donated. People that are poor that could have made money donating the plasma don't have it anymore. What is the positive outcome that's happened there?
Because we can't just make ethical decisions based on what is the most positive outcome. That's consequentialism or utilitarianism even, that we could do all kinds of things to try to make the best positive outcome. For example, you could maybe set up a system where orphaned children, a small subset of them, are used for child SA, and then that prevents children overall from being victims of child SA. And so the overall rate goes down. Would that be good because we had better consequences? No, because we did something grossly evil to try to get the good consequences. And it's similar, even if we have more of a shortage of things like kidneys, and we do need more kidneys and organs, it doesn't justify us doing things that are evil or exploitative, like taking organs from dead people without their consent, even though they're not alive anymore to consent. Or,
sure, but then the question...
using money so that the people who end up doing it are the poor who are in a worse place to be exploited and want to go and be able to do something where they are greatly benefiting society, but incurring massive harms because of this kind of exploitation.
Yeah, but then I think this doesn't have to be utilitarian. This could literally be, we could look at this as a virtue or deontologically. We're not talking about sacrificing some group of people to save another group of people, harming some group of people to save other people. We're just talking about an individual.
Giving up your kidney harms you.
Well, I'm saying things like blood plasma. The kidney stuff obviously moves a little bit more.
You can donate blood plasma 100 times a year. We don't have long-term studies what that does to people. It may not be healthy.
Okay, but we do have long-term studies on what blue-collar labor does to people.
Sure.
Is that exploitative, that we allow people to get engaged in backbreaking work that leads to negative health outcomes? It might put them around asbestos.
It depends on the particular occupation.
So if we were to compare construction work to blood plasma donation, what arguments do you have to save construction work from the negative arguments you've constructed to destroy the exploitative effect of donating for blood cancer?
Because construction work, and this goes back actually to sex work, because construction work is a service that creates a good. It's a particular kind of service or skill that's offered. With blood plasma, what we are doing is we are commodifying people. And one of the overarching criticisms of pornography and prostitution, including from non-religious feminists from the past 40 years, is that prostitution and pornography are wrong precisely because this is not a service that is offered to people. It is the purchasing of a commodity. And a simple thought experiment shows that. Wait, let me finish the thought experiment. Okay. The simple thought experiment is if people have a choice between two streams that they want to pay for. And let's say one is Jasmine's 5,000th stream, special access, cool stuff I'm going to do. And the other one is Megan from Nebraska, barely 18, my very first stream. This one's going to be the far more popular one. With real jobs, people value expertise and experience. With commodities, like a car, you value that it doesn't have a lot of miles on it. And people treat pornography and prostitution and the women involved more like cars than they do like service workers.
Would you say that argument also applies to every single form of athletics?
No. Because you value an athlete that has more experience, and so they have a greater skill set.
Hold on, what's the average age of a female Olympic gymnast?
But they have tremendous skill. Is the point.
They have skill and experience.
But what is isn't the average? Isn't the average age 14 years old?
It's not just age. The fact is that someone would rather prefer cam or porn or something with a girl it's my first time, whereas a gymnast, if it's their first time doing the uneven bars, we don't prefer that because they're bad.
Hold on, wait. So now we've narrowed this all the way down to it's just the fact that it's the first time, because commodification of bodies or people, these are things that also happen in a wide variety, like somebody who's younger, somebody who's got less damage, especially when we talk about sports. I feel like for athletics, this is going to apply. I don't know how you can look at athletes and say they're not commodified under this lens.
They can be treated inhumanly. People can be treated as commodities or inhumanly, but I'm saying that sex work, that's why I don't like that phrase. It's not even work. There's a whole host of other things that are involved. To say that we should treat, especially prostitution, like a job, to me seems insane.
What about acting?
What about acting?
Would you say like women actresses are also treated as commodities? Because a woman actress might be hired. Oh, she's only 22. She's like, God, how are we going to hire her to do this job instead
But
of?
they want her to be a
35-year-old?
good actor.
They want her to. Well,
she has a skill set.
they want her to have.
I mean, if you do
appropriate
porn, they
role.
also want you to do whatever pornographic actions are going to do as well, right?
But Trent's point is that for the girl who's doing the first time or selling her
For
virginity or showing something online.
Yeah, but you're
Popular
narrowing
porn
on a
star
hyper
if
specific
it's
thing.
just
Like,
the
is the
first
most
time.
popular porn star in the
Yeah.
world 18 years old?
That's just her first time?
No,
that's not how it works.
I think the point here is sex is different than all of these
Right.
things. Sex has meaning, and
we're
I think
completely
that
No,
No,
but-
but,
but
no, and
Into
going back
another
though,
topic.
here's the other thing why we can't. I'll give you another example why prostitution, it can't really be called. If you consider it sex work, you'd say it's a job like other jobs that are not the most fun to do. Is that what the idea of a prostitute would be? That if under the sex work paradigm, it's a job. And there are unpleasant elements, and like other jobs, many people do it just so they want to get paid.
I wouldn't say that job is necessarily unpleasant. I think
Yeah.
everything has aspects
Pros
of
and
unpleasantness
cons.
to it.
Okay, well, I would say that you don't think prostitution is generally an unpleasant job?
When you say prostitution,
Yes, I said
probably.
prostitution. Yes.
I mean-
Probably
And-
in
and-
general, I would imagine it's an unpleasant job. Yeah.
Yes,
I
okay.
would imagine in general.
But there are lots of jobs that are unpleasant, and we don't treat it like other jobs. So, for example, in other jobs, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, has very strict rules when you come in contact with things like bodily fluids. So you have to wear goggles, for example. You have to wear latex gloves, a gown. You have to minimize exposure to bodily fluids all the time. But you could never apply those OSHA standards to a prostitute who's expected to, have urine and ejaculate and other things, put in their face. So you can't treat it like other jobs, can you?
in regards to the bodily fluids thing, that probably not.
Right. So it seems very suspicious that if we were to go in and say, okay, well, she's going to wear these goggles and this gown, and the guy, it can't just be a latex condom. That's pretty insufficient. You could spread HPV even still in the areas that are uncovered. You got to wear, to make it a job covered in OSHA, you got to wear like a big old diaper that like covers everything in latex in the midsection. And that's the only time the sex acts are going to be allowed, is if you make sure there's no physical bodily contact.
Couldn't you also substitute this with like a lot of rigorous testing prior to the action?
No, because it doesn't matter. The OSHA regulations aren't just preventing the spread of definitely infectious liquids, it's of even potentially. It's the liquids themselves. My point is just that if you had prostitution as a job that actually satisfied standards for safe work apparatuses, no, men wouldn't go to that. They would go to the illegal alternatives, because it's not about this being a certain job. It's about acquiring a commodity in the bodies of women or men who are frankly treated like
All
women.
the evidence shows that when you do start treating it like a job, STD rates go down, condom use goes up. So I don't get how. I'm saying.
Where are those? Like, I've heard studies that say that before, and they're often misleading. Like, there was one about Rhode Island, for example, that claimed like, oh, well, gonorrhea goes down, so it makes prostitution legal. Except chlamydia also goes up during this time. These are often very cherry picked. They'll pick some diseases, but not others, to try to say that this is acceptable or not. But when you compare, for example, when you compare Germany, where prostitution has been legalized since 2002, and Sweden, where the Nordic model.
Wait, let's just stick on the OSHA thing, right? So,
fine. Well, I'm just saying that
real
prostitutes
quick,
get
for
killed in
sports.
Germany. They don't get killed in Sweden.
Okay, for sports, don't athletes sometimes come into contact with like blood and stuff? Like if you're a boxer or if you do MMA?
Right, and you minimize that, and then you might.
Wait,
you have to-
no, wait. They don't box in OSHA outfits, right? They don't have biohazard suits on. Also, pornography is already an employment industry in the United States. It's legal. Are you telling me there are no OSHA standards
The
for...
bodily fluids that happen in mixed martial arts competitions are incidental to the act. You can get involved in you can do an MMA match or a jiu-jitsu match or boxing and not come in contact with blood, and you definitely won't come. You won't come in contact with semen. That's not going to happen.
Well, wait. What's more likely to carry like different types of horrible infectious diseases? Blood versus semen? Do you know? I don't know the answer to that.
I mean,
I guess it depends what it gets into, but the point is that.
No, that's not the point. Hold on. So
then
in
I will
fighting,
answer.
you're-
It's still incidental. The goal in boxing and MMA and things like that is not to cause abrasions and cuts.
No,
and if those things happen, there are rules.
That is the goal. What do you mean?
goal is-
You're literally trying to beat the other person
It's
up.
incidental. You don't have
That's
to
not
do
incidental. Me punching them in the face, then bleeding is not incidental. Me punching them in the face.
But it is different though than what is going on in a sex act where somebody is ejaculating into somebody's mouth.
Sure,
That's
it can be-
completely
it can be-
and there's no, like, we would have bandages be applied in things to prevent the spread of bodily fluids in a sport, which I don't know if that falls under OSHA as much. That's a sport different than just
so
a
here's
job.
a question. Do you think OSHA standards just don't exist for porn in the United States?
They don't exist for pornography?
I think even
Wouldn't they?
despite-
Wait, hold on. Because pornography is an employment industry in the United States. Does OSHA not apply to them?
I believe that it's completely inconsistent how it's treated compared to other
When
professions.
you say inconsistent, isn't there going to be a different set of OSHA standards based on whatever the particular job is? Isn't that literally the point